The qualifying widow or widower filing status is available for spouses who have lost their other half. The way it works is in the year that the spouse dies, as we've covered in married filing joint, the surviving spouse still is eligible to file married filing joint. So this really applies to the 2 tax years after the year of the death. So, for example, spouse died in 2010. For 2010, the surviving spouse can still use married filing joint if they meet all the requirements that we covered in married filing joint. But for 2011 and 2012, they may be able to use qualifying widow or widower if they can meet the requirements. Now, the benefit of qualifying widow or widower, again, is that they get better tax treatment because of a higher standard deduction and better tax rates. To be eligible, these are the requirements that the surviving spouse has to meet. First of all, they should have been entitled to file a joint return with the spouse for the year the spouse died. What this is trying to say is that if the spouse had remarried in the year that the spouse died, they would not have been entitled to file a joint return that year, if you remember this from the married filing joint video. So in other words, the spouse shouldn't really remarry. The surviving spouse cannot remarry in the year that the spouse died or the next 2 years when they can claim this, for them to be able to claim the qualifying widow or widower filing status. And the next 3 requirements have to do with a child and maintaining homes. First of all, there should be a child or a stepchild for whom the surviving spouse can claim an exemption. However, this does not include a foster child. So they need to have a child or stepchild for whom they can claim an exemption. Now, you guys know what an exemption is. We went over dependency exemptions. The child lived in the taxpayer's home all year. Exception, temporary absences. Here it is again, and it will show up again under head of household when we cover that. So temporary absences, as we've covered under both qualifying child and qualifying relative, are absences where either the taxpayer or the child is away temporarily with the intention to come back. And then paid more than half the cost of keeping up a home for the year. And this is, where the child is living. So basically, the surviving spouse has to maintain a home, the step, by providing more than half of the support of that home. And then the child has to live with the taxpayer in that home all year, except for temporary absences. And this child should qualify for an exemption. When these 3 things are met as they pertain to the child, and the taxpayer has not remarried, they can qualify for the qualifying widower in the 2 years after the year of the death.